We've got sound. Hey, my name is Coach James. I am the creator and lead instructor for All About Aerodynamics, and you are now watching At the Track Live. At the Track Live is a part of the All About Aerodynamics program where we race Hot Wheels cars. And All About Aerodynamics is a science program where I use Hot Wheels cars to teach kindergarten through 6th grade students about physics, about aerodynamics, about Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion, about force, about energy, about a whole range of things. And at the end of the science portion of the program, I bring in about 400 different Hot Wheels cars, and the students each get to pick the car that they think would be fastest in a series of races. And we set up a 20-foot track, which is approximately a 1/64th scale quarter-mile drag strip. And we take the Hot Wheels cars that students have picked and we race the cars. But before I can bring the cars into the students so that they can have their races, I have to make sure that I have cataloged all of the cars, that I have them numbered and labeled so that I can make sure that the students all put the cars back in the right place, that it's easy for me to pull the cars when it's time for them to race. So what happens here is this is where I go into the crates of the hundreds and hundreds of Hot Wheels cars that I've purchased but haven't cataloged yet. I go pull those cars out, crack those open, take a picture of it, give a little review, enter it into the spreadsheet, and then head directly to the track to race the cars. Now, the interactive and live part, the part that you're probably more interested in, is the part where you get to pick a car to race against the cars that I am cracking open. And the way you do that is you can go to atthetrack.live and you will have 2 options. And one of those 2 options, you'll have 3 options. One option will be for the YouTube stream, one will be for the Twitch stream. Obviously, you don't need that because you made your way here. But the third option says choose a car. When you click on that option, you are taken to this page. And on this page, you will see a listing of all of the cars in the All About Aerodynamics catalog. And you can scroll through. Currently, we are up to about 470. Scroll all the way down to the bottom here. Some of the latest interest, 474. So there are 474 cars for you to choose from. I will open up a car, and if you think that number 402, short order, this red line, old school metal Hot Wheels car, if you think that that car is faster than the car that I've cracked open and you want to see it race, all you have to do is click on this number 402, or I'm sorry, just take the number of the car, 402 in this case, put it in the chat, and then I will see that. I'll pull this car, and then we'll head to the track and see how it does. If there's another car that you think, I don't know, you think that another old school, this Corvette Stingray, one that I clearly beat up on the playground in elementary school, but nevertheless, if you think that this car would be faster than whatever car it is that I pulled, then feel free to put that number into the chat and we'll have a race. Now, today it's a little interesting because on the last episode, which you can view on our YouTube channel, the Twitch video on demand for the old episodes only stays up about a week. So if you want to see what happened before, then you're better off going to the YouTube channel and taking a look. But in the last episode, cracked open about 6 different cars and looked at them, reviewed them, checked them out, took them to the track, had a whole series of races, a little mini tournament, and came back only to find out that there was an equipment failure and no audio was recorded. So that ultimately meant that I have this footage. If you go back and watch the episode, there is about a good 45 minutes of footage where the cars are racing, but there's no commentary, no audio from the track, nothing. And like a lot of people, I started learning about streaming and getting into it during COVID, and it's all a work in progress. You get one camera, then you want to get 2 cameras, then you want to get 3, then you want to get a better microphone, then you want to get better lights, then you want to get green screens, and it just sort of everything builds a little bit at a time. So in order to change the All About Aerodynamics program that was in person at schools to create an online version, there was a lot of trial and error. And sometimes, while I've got the setup pretty much where I want it and how I want it, things still happen. So the other day, the audio went out, and I had to kind of troubleshoot to figure out exactly what was wrong. I thought this audio interface for the microphone was bad. Turns out that wasn't the problem so much. And ultimately, it was because I had the microphone, the audio interface, plugged into a little USB hub. I know this is getting technical and geeky, but it's how it is. And essentially, the audio interface, for whatever reason, suddenly wasn't getting enough power to keep it on and keep the microphone on. So I just had to order a different connector. I've got that plugged in directly to the computer. I've tested it. The audio is working and everything is good. So what I decided to do is just run back that tournament and redo those races. The cars that won, actually no, all of the cars were entered into the spreadsheet and can now be chosen if you, again, go to atthetrack.live, go to choose a car, and so all of the cars from the last episode are now currently listed. The difference is that the final car is this Iron Man car, which, scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see right here. Now, this Iron Man car, I told a whole story, which you can actually hear on the other episode, so I won't go all the way back into it. But this Iron Man car was one of 2 that I had, and they were different enough that I needed to decide which one was going to be the Iron Man car, because their labels on the packaging, they both just said Iron Man. So I decided there can only be one to avoid confusion, and because I'm trying to avoid having duplicate cars in the rotation. So figured the best way to settle it was to take these cars to the track, and the Ironman car that won would be the Ironman car that got to remain as a part of the All About Aerodynamics fleet. And let me get these set up here on the turntable, and you can take a look for yourself and see these two Ironman cars. Let me switch to this view. And these are the two. And the differences are pretty apparent. Let me lock in this focus a little bit. That might help. This one is a lot of plastic on the sides. This one has more metal and some additional details on the side. And this one, I don't want to say right or left, but because they're spinning around, but this one is the one that actually won the races and ended up in the fleet. But because there was no sound, and because I want to fix that episode, what I'm going to do now is we're not going to go back and review all the cars, but I'm going to take some of the cars from that previous episode, go back out to the track, and race those all over again and see how things turn out. Perhaps this Ironman over here, the Golden Dome Ironman, maybe it was just having a bad day, and today it'll be faster and take out this other, I think we were calling this the Arc Reactor Ironman. And I still didn't look up to see if that's what it's called. I think that's what it's called, the Arc Reactor, that thing in the middle of Iron Man's chest. Anyway, so those two cars will race again for Iron Man supremacy. And I figured since I was pulling those out to race again, I might as well pull out some of the other cars that were also a part of that episode, which includes this Aston Martin 177, which, let me double check on the name. Yeah, it was the Aston Martin 177, which was, I thought was odd because on the packaging they spelled out 1, so it had O-N-E, then dash 77, so it was just a little strange. But the Aston Martin, a little coupe, good looking car. So we had that one. Then we had this 1970 Dodge Hemi Challenger, and this is from some spring, apparently 2021, some spring edition of Hot Wheels cars. So all of the cars in the group were colored in basically like spring Easter colors. So these kind of loud fluorescents, pinks, blues, greens. So that car was also one of the ones that made it into the spreadsheet, into the fleet, into the garage. And then we had also this one, this Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. Let me get something fixed right over here with the light. Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. And Lamborghinis are always extremely popular picks with the students I work with, and for good reason. I mean, because once I've taught them all about the importance of aerodynamics and the shape of cars and the design of cars, then, you know, Lamborghinis fit right into the mold of the type of car that should be able to reduce the amount of drag and be faster than a lot of the other Hot Wheels cars. And in a lot of times that is the case, but there are so many different factors and varieties and types of Hot Wheels cars that just being a Lamborghini isn't necessarily always enough. And with this one, I just felt like, I mean, it's a good looking, I like the shape of the car, but that paint job, it just looks like they dropped this thing into a bowl of baby blue paint and didn't take any time to bring out any of the details, especially in this rear section. Now there are a couple of orange highlights on the top, but really some just no contrast or anything in here. Some of the contrast happens because of the shadows and the lighting, but when the car is evenly lit, you don't really see much. So could have done a better job with the color. However, I explained in the last episode why I am partial to the orange and the blue color combination. So we have that. So there's the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento, the Aston Martin 177, and the 70 Dodge Hemi Challenger. There were also two other vehicles that we put up, and that was the Tricera truck, which was a dinosaur styled Hot Wheels car that actually, might as well just pull it out right here. We have these two. We have the Tricera truck, which is this one right here, the back of which looks almost like a Beetle, a VW Beetle, and then in the front they just went wild and decided to make it a dinosaur. Okay. Problem with this one is that it had a hard time staying on the track. I don't know that it made it all the way down without crashing. It's just the proportions of it, and when it comes out of the launcher, it just kind of flew up in the air, or it turned to the side, and it just never really worked out for this thing. So it lost its race, and it lost its race to another truck, but a more traditional truck that was in the tournament and now has been entered into the spreadsheet. And this is the 1999 Ford F-150 SVT Lightning, and pickup truck, a little bit lowered, much more of a sporty feel than a utility type vehicle, and it did pretty well. It didn't beat any of the cars, its size, its aerodynamics, etc. Wasn't going to let that happen, but it did well. And I mentioned that I have a whole lot of trucks, so I expect to have a series of truck races coming up, and when I do that, this one will probably do pretty well. I know a few episodes ago we had the Mazda Repu, so I haven't figured out how to say that, REPU, and that was a smaller truck, so maybe it'll give this one a run for its money, but this one didn't do too poorly. However, because of how it performed and how I know it would perform if we put it out there again, I'm leaving it out, so we'll just stick with the cars, and it will be Iron Man 1 versus Iron Man 2 versus the 70 Challenger versus the Aston Martin, and also versus the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. So let me just double check, make sure. Yeah. Okay. So we've got all of that. So what I'm going to do just before I head to the track is, again, you can scan this QR code. You can go to atthetrack.live, go down to choose a car. Once you do that, it will take you to this page once again, and you can scroll through, check out all of the cars that are listed. And once you find a car that you think would be faster than one of the cars that I've cracked open, all you have to do is take the number of the car and put it in the chat, and I will pick it up and take it to the track, and we'll see how it does. Because again, there's such a wide variety of styles, types, weights, shapes, sizes of these Hot Wheels cars that, and I haven't. My students have picked a lot of these cars, but they tend to gravitate in many cases toward the same types of cars and the same cars. I don't know if it's because of the color or the shape. In some cases, I know it definitely has to do with the color, and then sometimes the shape. So this one is really popular, this Track Ripper. This one in particular, which has these black and white stripes, and then it's got the aqua. It's, I mean, it's just a wild looking car, but it has the huge wing, the giant splitter, and the students this almost always gets picked. It has never won the tournament, but it still gets picked a lot. And so my point is that because students tend to pick a lot of the same cars often, even at different schools, there are a lot of these cars that have never had a chance to race. So I have no idea if they are fast. I can guess and kind of speculate just based on the outcomes from similar cars, but I really have no idea until they actually get out on the track and race. So that is what we're about to do. Let me double check, make sure no one has any submissions thus far. Okay, so I am about to head over to the track. I'm going to grab these cars, head over to the track, and I am also going to double check this time. I'm going to double check to make sure that the audio interface is working as it should be. And if everything is good on that end, then should have some good races, and we'll see what happens. So I will see you over at the track. Okay, so it seems that we have sound. I'm going to take one last quick glance at the audio interface. Yes, indeed, we do have sound, so that's good. Now, let's get these cars lined up. I didn't show the graphic that explained the camera setup for the track, but what you're looking at is you have three different views, and on the far left, that is the first section of the track, the first third. Then the middle view is obviously the middle section of the track. And then on the far right, you see the finish line. And with the finish line, there is a laser in there. And whichever car breaks that laser first, it will register as a solid red light. So the car that wins is indicated by a solid red light. The car that loses, that would be a flashing red light. So solid red light equals a winning car, and the flashing red light is the losing car. So we're going to start off with the Challenger in lane 1 versus the Aston Martin in lane 2. And I have these acrylic covers that I use because I designed this launcher, and the force that it creates, and part of the whole reason for doing this is because this launcher, I wanted to create more force, because in creating more force, then the cars travel at higher rates of speed. And as the cars move at higher rates of speed, then drag becomes much more of a significant and determining factor, and they can observe other aerodynamics and physics principles at work. So, just making sure tripod is set up correctly. All right, so the cars are set up. We have the Challenger in lane 1, and we have the Aston Martin in lane 2. As per the rules, it's going to be best 2 out of 3. The cars will switch lanes after each completed race. If a car crashes, that race is restarted. If that car crashes, that same car crashes again, it is disqualified. So 2 crashes, 2 consecutive crashes, get you disqualified, and then we will move on. So, all right, here we go. Challenger lane 1, Aston Martin lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. And the Aston Martin took that. It didn't get off to the best start, but the Challenger started wobbling and shaking, and it's part of what the students can observe is that if a car it's important that the cars are lined up straight in the launcher, because their best shot at winning a race is traveling down the track in a straight line without brushing against the sides. As soon as a car hits one side of the track or the other, it will allow the students to take note of Isaac Newton's third law of motion, which says that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if the car comes out and bangs into the left side of the track, the left side wall of the track, it is going to bounce off and hit the right side. And then it's going to hit the right side, it's going to bounce off and hit the left side again. And that is going to be a theme that will be repeated all the way down the track. And every time the car scrapes up against the side of the track and the barriers, it is creating additional friction, and that friction is going to serve to help slow the car down. And so it's something that is easier to observe when the cars are launched with more force and traveling at higher rates of speed. And I saw it with the Challenger on that last run, and I think that's why, even though it got off to a good start, all that wobbling and going back and forth, scraping against the sides of the barrier, didn't help it in the end. So that was a problem there. But this is the second race. We've got the Aston Martin now in lane 1, the Challenger in lane 2. If the Aston Martin can take this, it will move on. If the Challenger can get the victory, then we'll have one more race. Let's see. Three, two, one, race. So the Challenger made it down. It didn't make it down without. Well, the Challenger made it down fine. It didn't. It didn't look like it was particularly quick. But the problem is that the Aston Martin came off the track. And because the Aston Martin came off the track, this race will be restarted and rerun. But it's good to know that the Challenger actually made it down. And again, it didn't look fast, but it was sufficient. However, because the Aston Martin crashed, we've got to run it back. But the good news for the Challenger is that if the Aston Martin crashes again, then it will be disqualified. And the Challenger, despite not being faster, will move on. So let's see how this plays out. Get the Aston Martin set. Okay, that looks good. And the Challenger is a narrow car, and narrow cars tend not to always be the best option because they're more prone to bouncing back and forth more violently because there's just more space between the body of the car and the sidewalls. But we'll see what happens. All right, got these cars locked in. If the Aston Martin wins this, that will be the second race it's won, and it will move on. If the Challenger wins this, then we've got a 1-1 tie. However, if the Aston Martin crashes, it's disqualified, and that's that. So the Aston Martin needs to stay on the track this time, and we'll see what happens. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. And the Aston Martin blew it again. And it is now disqualified and out. It hit, it came off the track and hit the tripod of the camera, but it's not like there was one race with the Black Panther character car where the car was so tall that it was actually hitting the tripod. That wasn't the case for the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin was off the track before it got to the tripod. It just so happened that at the point at which it went off the track, the tripod was there and stopped it from, further careening down the track. So the Aston Martin is out, despite not really being faster. But the Challenger has completed 3 races in a row without veering off the track. So the Challenger stays in the running. So now the Challenger will go up against the Lamborghini, the Sesto Elemento. So let me get the cars lined up here. The Charger doesn't care. The Charger will take a technical win. A win is a win, and it moves on, and the rules are the rules, so that's how it goes sometimes. Okay, so let's see. We've got the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento lined up. We've got the Challenger. in lane 2. So Lambo lane 1, Challenger lane 2. Let's see what happens. First race. Three, two, one, race. The Lamborghini, taking no prisoners, smoked the Challenger. I mean, that was not even almost remotely close. The Challenger definitely has some work to do if it's going to be a true Challenger. So let's get the Lamborghini. We're going to switch lanes and see if that makes a difference for the Challenger. All right, so let's go and see if all right, so now Lamborghini will be in lane number 2, lined up and ready to go. Put this Challenger in lane 1, lined up, looking pretty good. So the Challenger definitely needs to stay on the track. Number 1, most importantly, it needs to stay on the track, and hopefully it can roll pretty straight. I'm trying to look down the track to see if there's anything I need to adjust, but it looks like there might be a slight curve in the track, a section, but both sides are curved evenly, so it shouldn't do anything to give one car an advantage over the other. So here we go. Lambo, lane 2, Challenger in lane 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. The Challenger, didn't get off to a great start, and I don't even know if it came up a few inches short of crossing the finish line. It kind of clipped and brushed against the barrier, which is that whole problem that I was telling you. So if you look at the car here, let me pass it through. Look at it here. You can see how narrow it is and how much space there is that it can almost turn completely that way. Whereas the Lamborghini's so wide, if it's at an angle, then the angle isn't so great that it's going to throw off the car's forward momentum. But look at this. When this car, the Challenger, this narrow car, that's way too much. It hits there, then it's going to turn and hit there, and that's just no good. Whereas, again, the Lamborghini, even if the Lamborghini is at an angle, like, it can't move anymore. Like, the angle's not going to be any more severe than it is right there. So those are two kind of key differences when you're thinking about what kind of cars perform better on this type of track. Now, when you're dealing with a gravity track, those kinds of things don't seem to matter as much because, again, the cars aren't traveling as quickly. So it's something to keep in mind if you pick a car in this at the track live format. Now we get to what we have been building towards again, which is Iron Man versus Iron Man. And this is the battle that had to happen because I only wanted one Iron Man car in the fleet, and the only way to settle which car that would be to have these races. And we had the races, and got an outcome, but because of the sound problems, it's almost like it didn't happen. So I've got them lined up again, and the distinction that we were making before is that Arc Reactor Iron Man, the one with more metal on the car, is in lane 2, and I don't know what this other one, Golden Dome Iron Man, the one with the huge gold hood and front area. Golden Dome Iron Man is in lane 1, and Arc Reactor Iron Man is in lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. That was closer than I remember it being the last time, but Arc Reactor Iron Man took it by a slim margin. So now we will go back, flip the sides of the track, switch lanes, and see what the outcome is. But that was pretty good. Pretty good race. All right, let's see. We've got, this time, Arc Reactor Iron Man will be in lane 1. So, get these car lined up right there. Very nice. And Golden Dome Iron Man will be in lane number 2. Just trying to get it pressed up. As I mentioned previously, that because of the way this launcher is set up, these cars need to be pressed up right against the starting block. Otherwise, they will be, it's almost like they get punched out of the starting block. So instead of getting a push, they get punched. And when they get punched, when the launching block bangs into the back of the car first instead of just pushing it, the result is the cars tend to fly up into the air. They hit this acrylic cover. They come back down onto the track, but they're really traveling kind of in an unstable, wobbly manner that makes them more likely to crash. So the cars are all set up again. We've got Golden Dome Iron Man in lane 2, Arc Reactor Iron Man in lane 1. If Arc Reactor Iron Man wins, then Arc Reactor Iron Man takes it. Let's see what happens. Okay. 3, 2, 1, race. Whoa. Okay. Golden Dome Iron Man took that race. So now it is all evened up. Golden Dome 1, Arc Reactor 1. This is it. The battle. This is the second go round. It's almost like the first round didn't happen. However, we know it did happen because Arc Reactor Iron Man already earned a place. So this, I guess I'll have to figure it out. If Golden Dome Iron Man happens to win this race, then I think it will have earned a place in the fleet, in the garage. So we'll have to see what happens, but it still has one more to go. So right now it's 1-1. Golden Dome Iron Man 1, Arc Reactor Iron Man 1. Getting them lined up again. Arc Reactor Iron Man is in lane 2. Golden Dome Iron Man, looking for some redemption, is in lane number 1. Looking good. Both cars in there. It's 1-1. slide the acrylic cover over. All right, they're lined up. Time to see who's going to take it. Three, two, one, race. Oh! Golden Dome Iron Man has come back after losing in the first version of this series. Golden Dome Iron Man decided, you know what? I've got a second opportunity, and I'm going to make the best of it. So, I'm going to have to think about that. But right now what we have is Golden Dome Iron Man and the Sesto Elemento Lamborghini that have both been victorious. So we're going to line that race up. Golden Dome Iron Man versus the Lamborghini, and see if Golden Dome Iron Man can continue this redemption story by defeating the Lamborghini, which was the fastest car the last time out when we did this. So let's get Golden Dome Iron Man set up in lane number 2 and get the Lamborghini ready to roll in lane number 1. Okay, cover's going on. Again, a solid flashing light. A solid light indicates the winner. A flashing light indicates the loser. And I see I need to reset the finish line because I see one solid light on right there. Let me reset that. And now we're good to go. Lamborghini lane 1, Golden Dome Iron Man lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Iron Man takes it. And it wasn't a bad race, but it wasn't necessarily what I would call a close race. That was impressive. Let me make sure this is all lined up. Reset these lights. Okay. So Iron Man. Okay, so Golden Dome has taken it. If Golden Dome Iron Man can defeat the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento one more time, I think it will have definitely earned a spot in the All About Aerodynamics garage. So we will set them up again. And this time the Lamborghini will be in lane number 2. And Golden Dome Iron Man will be in lane number 1. Let me make a little adjustment there. Just trying to get this Iron Man car lined up against the block. Okay, got it. So, cars are lined up. Golden Dome Iron Man is looking to complete this comeback story and defeat both the arc reactor Iron Man car and the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento, which was the fastest car the last time we did this a few days ago. So, here we go. See how this race turns out. 3, 2, 1, race. Okay, the Lamborghini is not ready to hand over its title just yet, and took that race, and it was not what I would call particularly close. And the way I gauge that is whether or not I can tell which car is winning or won from my perspective at the opposite end of the track without having to check the lights to confirm. But, all right, so there we go. We have Iron Man with one victory. We have the Sesto Elemento with a victory of its own. And now we are going to see which of these cars is going to take home the title today. So the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento is being lined up in lane number 1. Went in fairly easily, almost like it's ready to get this race off and running. The Iron Man car is being a little stubborn, refusing to kind of stay put in the starting block. It's locked in now, and then the Lamborghini backed out. All right, so let's get the Lamborghini locked in. Okay, Lamborghini lane 1, Golden Dome Iron Man in lane 2. If Golden Dome Iron Man takes it, then it's taking the title for the day, and will probably be entered into the All About Aerodynamics garage. If the Lamborghini takes it, then it will just confirm what we already knew from the previous race. So let's see what happens. Get this acrylic cover locked on here. Got it. All right, and here we go. Three, two, one, race. No. Iron Man takes it. Iron Man redeems himself from the performance in the last episode and takes this one away from the Sesto Elemento. So let me gather up these cars, head back to the garage. Okay, so there we have it. Iron Man, the Golden Dome Iron Man. Let's give Golden Dome Iron Man a little bit of respect, a little bit of shine, because it definitely performed significantly better than it did the last time in the last episode. And as a result of beating both the arc reactor Iron Man car and the Lamborghini, then I really do think that I am going to have to make this Golden Dome Iron Man the number 475, 475th entry into the At the Track Live All About Aerodynamics garage and fleet, because it can't. How can I deny it? If this is one of the fastest cars, there may be a reason, or maybe it was just one of those things, and this happened to be its day. But it got the job done. It took the title and it took the races today. So let's see here. If I go and take a look, it will definitely be entered in. And so on the next episode at the track live, I will pull 4, 5, 6 more cars out of the storage bins, crack those open, take a look at those, and then take them to the track. And once again, if you think that you can find a car out of all 474, which will soon be 475, if you think that you can find a car that is faster than all of the ones that I am going to be cracking open, all you have to do, scroll through this list, find the car, take the number, put it in the chat, and I will pull that car and we'll set them up and we'll get a race going. So, for now, I think that I have some work to do because I have to enter in another car into the spreadsheet, which I wasn't planning to do. I was just planning to come back and repeat the races from the other day and presumed that the results would be largely the same. And they started out that way with the Aston Martin defeating the Challenger, but then in the next races, the Aston Martin just couldn't stay on the track and it wobbled and crashed. And as the rules state, if there are 2 consecutive crashes, then that car is disqualified. So the Aston Martin didn't make it, whereas previously it beat the Challenger pretty easily. So then the Challenger went up against the Sesto Elemento, and the Lamborghini beat the Challenger as it did in the previous episode. So everything was pretty much going the same way that it had been previously, except for the Aston Martin crashing. And then the Iron Man matchup. So because of the outcomes of the races before, I presumed that we'd have the similar outcome again. And that's how it started, with Arc Reactor Iron Man winning the race. But then Golden Dome Iron Man was like, I'm not having it, and came back and won multiple races. So that was a surprise. And then there was no way that I thought, even having beaten the Iron Man car, that it was going to defeat the Lamborghini. I thought the only way that it could beat the Lamborghini is if the Lamborghini happened to crash twice and got disqualified. But there was no way that if the Lamborghini stayed on the track, it was going to lose. But again, that's why we have to race the cars, because it stayed on the track and it still lost. So, hey, you never know. And again, with this track, the setup, there is a launching block that is pressed up against the back of the car and pushes the cars down the track, out of the launcher and down the track. It pushes against them. And it does so with so much force that if a car is not lined up straight, it will start to wobble. And if it hits one side, it's going to bounce off and hit the other side, and it's just going to ricochet back and forth, and it is not going to have the speed to beat a car that for the most part stays straight. And sometimes the cars just hit the sides and start to, rub up against the edges of the track and the barriers. That friction serves to slow the car down and it loses the race. So I'm not sure if that's what happened with the Lamborghini, or maybe that's what was happening with the Iron Man car in the last race. Maybe it was just lined up and rubbing on the sides of the barrier or the track and just didn't get quality launches. All I know is it defeated 2 cars that had one that had beaten it and the other that beat that car. So again, this is why we race. This is part of the fun. This is part of the excitement. And for me, it is a way to finally go into my storage crates, pull out cars that I've purchased but haven't had a chance to open, haven't had a chance to put on the track. And that's the best part, is that until the cars actually race, I have no idea. I have no idea how fast the car is. I think I have an idea, but clearly, as we saw today, those ideas can be completely thrown out and a new car can show up and become a champion. So in the case of today, that car, that champion, happened to be this Golden Dome Ironman, which will be entered in as car number 475. If you decide that you want to select that car to race against whatever car I open up next time, then all you have to do is go in and take the number of that car, put it in the chat, and we'll go from there. So, on behalf of Golden Dome Ironman, I am Coach James for At the Track Live, and until next time, you can go to atthetrack.live and there's a calendar, and I'll be putting into the calendar the next time that we're going to be up here and going to be racing cars. You can also check with our Instagram account, which is pop up on the screen. Should pop up right here. There it is. At AA Aerodynamics. Find us on Instagram. And in the stories, I'll usually post up a countdown or some other information so that you do not miss an episode of At the Track Live. So once again, I am Coach James, and I will see you at the races.